Okay, we're live, everyone. Hi, welcome to the 9th Bay Area Reporters Bar Talks with an illustrious array, a half a dozen array of drag persona from the Bay Area. I'm Jim Provenzano, the Nightlife and Arts Editor for the Bay Area Reporter. And with us tonight are, let me go from upper left in our picture is Mercedes Munro, Absolute Empress, now 1752?
52.
52. The Roman L is a 50. Yeah, I got it. And to her left and our right is Heklina, the Trannyshack and Mother host for years, co-star of the Golden Girls Live, of course, and former co-owner of Oasis. Below that and the left is Khmera Rouge, the 50th Empress of the Imperial Court, and also a winner of the GAPA runway twice?
Once, so yes, Miss GAPA 25.
Okay. And next up is Fudgie Frottage, creator and host of the annual San Francisco Drag King contest, which has been at various places, most recently Oasis for the past 4 years, or?
That sounds right.
Okay, but before that at Somart's Center, I think, wasn't it?
DNA Lounge, Somar. That's
and
about
pretty
it.
much consistently benefiting pet charities, right?
Pets Are Wonderful Support and Rocket Dog Rescue.
Okay. So we also have Persia, who's a performer, an art curator, and a teacher. And you taught today. You're a school teacher. How are you doing?
I'm well. I was trying to get paint off my fingers, but not very successful.
You can't see it. It's fine. It's fine.
I know.
And with a lovely fuchsia background, Sister Tilda Next Time of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. I am well. So we're going to talk for about an hour and a half, if we can stand the gossip. I want to talk first about how happy I am that you all are alive and well and doing your thing. How are you doing your thing? Let's start with Mercedes. What are you doing now?
So now, in addition to just like being mindful and doing the best that I can to survive like our new normal, I'm still running all of my businesses. I've become a homebody and I'm not mad at it at all. But mostly it is just like loving my partner, Andres, running my two very successful businesses, doing drag. I have a show and residencies out of both Midnight Sun and Bow. And yeah, just taking it one day at a time and just taking care of those that I love and making sure that I'm able to still employ people and keep them insured.
Employ people meaning with the drag shows or the other work you do?
No, with my businesses. So I have employees that like run my stores in my absence.
Yeah, I'm trying to assign as many stories as we can fit into our limited page counts to keep freelancers alive as well and going. Heklina, you're currently in Athens, Georgia.
Yes.
Tell us about your recent adventures and what you've been up to.
You mean during COVID?
Yeah.
Well, COVID kind of forced my hand in the beginning of 2020. My whole year was planned out in San Francisco, like every year was, My year pretty much has always been planned out starting in January. It's like full already. Then everything stopped overnight, and I wasn't about to be quarantined in my little tiny San Francisco apartment. So I fled to my house in Palm Springs, and that kind of I gave up my apartment in San Francisco, and it became all of a sudden my primary residence. There was a real shift to online shows to try and make an income. Of course, my income was helped by the fact that I did manage to sell my share of Oasis during the pandemic, which I was really grateful for. There was a period in June and July of last year when COVID was over, and all my gigs started up again, and of course we didn't know what happened to that. And then I the only thing that I really did in full last year was Golden Girls, but we just made it into this past December, right as we were closing. Omicron was just taking over, so now everything.
And Betty White died.
Huh? And Betty White died. Yes. So everything came to a halt. You know, I had gigs scheduled for January, February, blah blah blah. So now I decided to go on vacation, and I'm touring the south of United States.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's really thrown us for a loop. I was doing the arts and nightlife listings yesterday. It takes hours. And there were like 27, boldface, canceled, postponed, moved, because some people are doing that and others aren't. I'm confused by things because bars and nightclubs and restaurants are doing one thing, whereas most theaters are doing another thing.
Well,
Khmera,
sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say there's no manifest from the city, so it's more like it's an optical. It's just optics. Like I was supposed to do a show in Palm Springs with Peaches Christ, but it's a terrible time to try and sell tickets and promote an event right now. Even if Omicron is gone by February, nobody wants to buy a ticket right now for something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's very much like that. Khmera, how are you doing? You look fabulous.
Thank you. Doing well. We are all just surviving and getting over COVID. I think everybody we know, every other person is catching Omicron, but I think a lot of our friends are fortunate enough to have gotten vaccinated and boosted. So reports are that everybody's surviving with mild symptoms. So it's been tough on a lot of friends, especially over the past year and a half. A lot of friends have been struggling, but we are pushing forward, and the end is near, hopefully. But yeah, overall doing well. Glad to be.
Yeah, a lot of the press releases I got were venues, specifically reputable theaters, are requesting not only proof of vaccination but proof of a booster shot to let you in the theater. So there's that. Fudgie, you got to do the most recent Drag King contest. When was that? The most recent one was
It was in August, and we ended up doing it as a hybrid show because, as Heklina had mentioned earlier, June and July were golden, and there were some great shows that happened right around Gay Pride. But then people started to get sick again, and a lot of people were canceling all of their indoor August shows. So the judges in the show were canceling, the performers were canceling. And I was thinking, well, I'm probably the oldest person that's going to be in the show. And so I'm the one that's going to get sick, but I'm going to do it anyway. And fortunately, knock wood, I did not get sick. The winner, Meat Flap, did test positive the next day, but then we all went and got swabbed and we were all okay because we had our masks on and followed all the proper protocol. But yes, it's been really crazy, and I really haven't been going out much because I don't want to get sick. But online shows are happening.
Yeah.
I think at this point, the scientists are saying we're all going to get Omicron, and it's a mild flu-like thing. So maybe, we'll just get through. We just have to get through it somehow or die. Those are our choices.
Are you planning any entertainments online? Are you planning on going back to something like that?
There's something coming up in April for Drag King History that Moby Dick runs with Ken Vegas, and they're going to do like a tribute to Club Casanova. So we're going to talk about the men of Club Casanova, which I've hosted in San Francisco back in the day when they traveled, like, in the mid 90s. Yeah. And there's always online shows coming. I just, I have to step up my tech skills because it's really all about green screen, camera work, editing. It's like, okay, well, sure, I'll take on a new career as I collect my Social Security.
Yeah, I used puppets on a video on YouTube, and it went totally viral. It got like 100 views over the course of 10 years. Anyway, so Persia, you got back from work. Can you tell us about your teaching? That must be difficult because schools are opening and closing. You're muted, so unmute yourself, dear.
See, I'm terrible with technology.
No, that was very polite. Very polite. Don't mute.
I know. I was like, what's going on? Yes, I just got off of work. I work at a children's after-school arts program. And yes, and I am the head teacher for first grade, but I teach all the grades. And I do a little bit of drag history. I just recently started getting into robots. I'm not an engineer, but I'm getting a lot of help with that. But the kids love it. I love it.
Making robots?
Making robots, yeah, that move.
Like erector sets and Legos and things.
Out of popsicle sticks and fuse beads, you name it, we put it together. So that's what we're currently working on. But so I started summer school and then now fall, and now we're into winter quarter or whatnot. But semester. So I've been in school, but also I've been doing a lot of drag presentations to middle schoolers all over the Bay, and I'm officially old now because because now I can talk about they ask me a lot of questions about me, and it's kind of weird. And so, but it's been a really interesting experience, sort of like taking my work online, and then not only that, but taking it to a school setting of either elementary students or middle schoolers or high schoolers, and really not just talking about me, which I love talking about, but talking about the rich history that San Francisco has given not just to the Bay Area, but the world. And so it's really awesome to talk about like Heklina, for example, and then talk about all kinds of people. There's like Laurie Bushman, and I have a list, but also like the drag kings and all those things. So it's been awesome, actually. Of course, nothing fits me, and that's fine. But it's been a very interesting, eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. That's great that you're sharing the word and information I think the Bay Area is more enlightened, but obviously there's still pockets, I'm sure, of folks who don't know that, who aren't aware of our queer history locally, as well as Indigenous history, etc. Sister Tilda, sorry to keep you waiting, but you're fabulous in full face, as they say, or in face.
Waiting is not a problem for me. I got ready at like 2 p.m. because I knew I was going to take a long time. So I'm fine with waiting.
So how long have you been a sister? Can we go into your backstory?
Well, I've been in the order for about 6 years right now, and I've been the president. This is my second year as the president.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was the chair board. And it's been 6 years.
So I want to go to round 2 of the queries, and I'm curious as what inspired you to? Did you do other drag before did you hear about the sisters and go, oh, that's for me?
Oh yeah, that's I've been doing drag since since the early 90s as well, because I was like a goth kid.
Oh, okay.
Back in Brazil, I was born in Brazil, so I used to dress up like as Boy George, and then The Cure and David Bowie, and all kinds of artists that would inspire me.
Uh-huh.
And from that, I started going out to more electronic music clubs as well. Then I got in contact with all the club kids. I survived the whole club kid era without doing too much damage to my brain, which is very hard for those who live that area. And but it's funny because I knew the sisters from that time when I was in Brazil, but I didn't know who they were. I just thought they were like a theater group, just like a bunch of freaks who like to dress up as nuns. So there are even pictures of me dressed up as a sister, like from 20 years ago, when I had no idea who they were. And once I moved to San Francisco about 10 years ago, I had a bunch of mutual friends that were also mutual friends with sisters. And I started to get to know them better. And I said, oh, that's the kind of thing I want to do. This is me as an immigrant and a gay Latino person trying to survive in America, and it was just like the fear of Trump getting into power and all the kind of stuff. So it made me feel like I need to do something for my community. I need to protect my community, and the sisters seem to be like the most perfect family that I could choose outside my real family.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Let me try to get this thing going back. Now, you were part of, was it Easter celebrations have gone online, and then they were tried to be live this year, or?
Yeah, we are trying to make it back to the Dolores Park, Omicron permitting, so let's keep our fingers crossed that we can make it a live event again.
Okay. Well, speaking of live versus Memorex, if you want to see this again, it'll be archived on our YouTube channel. You can see the link below there, Bay Area Reporter SF on YouTube. It'll be up in about an hour. It takes like an hour to process. Khmera, can you talk a little bit about the efforts that the gay Asian Pacific Islander community has been dealing with in the last few years with the pandemic?
Sure. Yes. So I think, as everybody's aware, the last few years have been hard on everybody, but especially the API community. There's been a lot of hateful attacks and a lot of targeted negativity towards our API community. But I believe, the API community is strong and resilient and has really attempted to step up and try to combat the hate that's been spewing around. But I think, with organizations like GAPA, which is the Gay Asian Pacific Alliance, which has since rebranded to include a more diverse range of individuals to be more encompassing and welcoming, along with PRISM, another organization that spun off from GAPA. I think they're doing a lot of just like community outreach and just fundraising to support the community overall.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been tough. It's so hard when you hear stories of people being attacked, especially elderly Asian people. There's been a few isolated attacks here in the Bay Area, in San Francisco, and Chinatown, but all over the nation, it's been tough.
Yeah, that's been in a lot of the news, and it's really frightening. You just got to look out for other people. Definitely. What is the? Are there specific things that the court and maybe Mercedes? Are you guys doing fundraisers online? What have you been doing that you might want to get some of our readers and fans interested in hearing about?
Sure. So currently, our Imperial Majesties Emperor David Moore and Empress Juanita Moore have been doing really, really well. They have broken records in regards to like their fundraising efforts, and they post regularly about the events that they're hosting and throwing and things of that nature. I know that Empress Juanita Moore and Emperor David Moore just had a New Year's Eve ball, and a portion of the proceeds of that also went to the Imperial Court of San Francisco. And so yes, we are doing a lot of fundraising efforts as best as possible. Also, they did that in an outdoor space, and so people were still required to show their vaccination cards and all of that stuff and their IDs, and just to make sure that it was the safest as possible event to not only have a good time and ring in the new year, but also to raise much needed funds for the community.
Yeah, Juanita has so many connections, and they're pretty much an amazing pair, the two of them. We'll get to some photos of Juanita and also to David's fashion show that features Mercedes. Heklina, you're retired completely except for the occasional Golden Girls show. Are you planning on coming back to the Bay Area for any occasions, or is your drag persona just on reserve?
Well, actually, I don't agree with any of that because I'm not retired. I was only able to do Golden Girls because of COVID, but I still am. I just did a show with Varla Jean Merman and Sherry Vine in Palm Springs for New Year's Eve, and I think what it is the format of a Trannyshack and then Mother. I don't think I'm going to be doing that anymore. I've done it so much, hosting a drag show with a bunch of people and a stage manager and blah blah blah. So I'm more focusing on theater and my solo shows and stuff like that. I still do a party called Daytime Realness at El Rio.
All right.
And I'm focusing on performing more in Palm Springs. And so, and I was doing a residency at the W. You know, like I like being busy, but I just have not been able to do anything. And
yeah,
and you know, when Delta, I mean, last year when it seemed like COVID was over, I made this grand thing where it's like, I'm so glad I don't have to do any online shows anymore. You know, this is my final online show. So I just don't think I can go back to that, you know, that format. So I'm really just hoping for the time when we can do live shows again. I'm not planning to go online.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've been, you know, I get press releases for come to opening night. Oh, opening night's closed. Well, I guess I didn't have to make up an excuse. So
Right.
It's kind of a relief, but it's like I only went to 2 theater shows. I've been to 1 or 2 restaurants in the past few months, and it's frustrating because I want to promote anything that's happening. So I have to check, okay, it's online, it's streaming, it's in person. Now you have to get your booster proof as well. So just trying to support anything that's going on, online or off or in person, has been a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, like in January, I was going to do Mommy Queerest with Peaches in Palm Springs, and we were going to come back and do the Castro show of Drag Becomes Her at the Castro Theater.
Yeah,
on the 12th of February. And then I was going on tour with Golden Girls to the northwestern states. That got canceled. You know what I mean? So it's just like everything's on pause again. So it is frustrating. But like I think Mercedes was saying before we went live, or maybe you said it in the show, like in a way, I'm not mad at it, you know, because I was on a hamster wheel for 25 years of just constantly moving and moving and moving. And I never was able to take this time off. So in a way, I like both of it, you know, so.
Well, you're worth it. That's for sure. You really you've all given us so much entertainment over the years. I want to indulge in history because working at the B.A.R. for all these, since the Cenozoic era, since 1992, off and on, I've come to really have a kind of nostalgic affection for the old papers. So I'm going to show a kind of chronological slideshow of several dozen photos. It ends up including several of you, or most all of you, in 1 or 2 ways. You can feel free to comment, and if you want to comment if you're watching this and a fan, comment in the comments, and I will forward that when I can. But first, we want to show the slideshow. Once I figure out how to do that, share, stop screen, slides. Your computer, you have no slides. Oh, I was supposed to upload them. God.
Oh, no.
No, there's a different way of doing that, and I don't like doing that. Share screen, allow, select entire. Oh, that's it. I'm going to do entire screen. It's going to go wonky for a minute and look like something out of The Third Man. Can you see the folder? Can you all see it?
I can hear a siren now.
Oh, you can hear. Can you see the old B.A.R., the picture?
No.
Okay.
No.
And this is a good reason why I don't like online shows anymore.
Right. No, this is I'm getting through. Allow.
There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
here I see it now.
Yeah, I don't have a musical soundtrack. I have a video from Sharon McKnight from last time, and I showed a YouTube video that I'd saved. Anyway, this is 1971. This is only like, I think, a month after the B.A.R. opened. Now, there's no caption. They just threw up a photo of a drag duo act, cabaret act on the front page because apparently they didn't have anything more important, but it's really festive. It's kind of indicative. And here's Michael Greer in a production of Fortune in Men's Eyes, the jail homosexual themed jail drama.
Oh, yeah.
So one thing that the paper did early on was really get into theater, and there was a lot of drag theater, and of course Michael Greer, whose photo is behind me when we get back. And Khmera and Mercedes, feel free. This is Maxine, Empress, the 8th Empress. So by the second year of the paper, the Imperial Council had already had their 8th Empress crowned.
Yes, Jose was crowned in 1965. So
we have some Jose material coming up, but I was really fascinated by the coverage because if you look at the byline here, Donald McLean, he also did drag, and we'll get to him in a minute. This is another celebration of Sweet Lips, the second hanging of Sweet Lips. Now, the hanging of a bartender is, I forget what it is. It's something like they hang something on the bar. I forget what exactly that entails, that activity, but the now closed cockpit was the site of that. And Sweet Lips was, of course, a columnist with the B.A.R. from the first issue. Lorelei Lee is another drag persona of the day. I love the old ads, too. And here's some other Empress candidates for 1973. I forget who won. I think it was Frida or Fern.
What was the year?
This is 1973. This is May 1973.
That's Frida.
Oh, okay. So Frida won?
Yep.
Fred, aka Fred Hilliard. This is interesting because they use their non-drag names right next to their drag names, which is rarely done anymore.
I think a lot of the early dragons, what I experienced, I think they used their primary name.
Really?
Yeah.
Drag names really existed early on.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but
no, I remember stories, and like anyone could correct me if I'm wrong, that like if you were to dress in drag, you had to have a label and or something that like not only identified you as a male, but like showed your male name. Does that sound familiar?
Yes. There was a law that you had to have some form of male drag on as well, or some identification, say I am in drag, so that they wouldn't be arrested for solicitation.
Yeah, but what I really, really love and appreciate about this is that it's 1973 and Frida was our first elected African-American empress, and like it being done so like early on, like in the infancy of the Imperial Court is really great.
Right.
In the 80s, we of course had Connie. She was an empress as well, and then I was crowned in 2017, and so 3 in its totality. And then the 52 years of its existence, but like this alone, and you having a picture of Frida here, like just warms my heart, and so it's really great to see.
That's great.
Wonderful. That's great. Yeah. One thing I will say about the Imperial Council of San Francisco itself, it since has spawned and grown into the international court system with, I believe, around 70 chapters across the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. But especially in San Francisco, it's been pretty groundbreaking in the sense that even in the 60s, 70s, like Empress number 5, Empress number 8 were empresses of color, and then Frida and Empress after that. So it's just ever since the beginning, they've been pioneers of just like inclusion and diversity. Maxine,
absolutely.
So having empresses represent, especially Jose as a Latina. As our first appointed empress. Yeah, it's been incredible that it's always been focused on representing the community, and the diversity has been wonderful.
And also, it's just amazing how they really paved the way for the structure of fundraising, of the different ways you can raise funds for the community. Even before there was an AIDS crisis, before there were these other concerns, it was building a community of, let's use this to do something. And I just find that really amazing that the Tavern Guild rose at the same time. I always love to share this because you can look at it on YouTube, but this is B.A.R. arts editor Donald McLean as the character Beverly LaSalle in a 1975 episode of All in the Family, of course, with Carol O'Connor. He played Beverly and in 2 episodes, and you can look that up on YouTube. Pretty fascinating. Now, this is by Ron Williams. This is probably our most famous early B.A.R. cover, other than the No Obits in the 90s. It's the Gay Freedom Day Parade of 74 that they used a year later to publicize 75. But this is Empress Doris riding atop an elephant.
Empress 10.
10, the 10th Empress, yes.
And like after Doris rode the elephant, like there was a ban on any like live animals, elephants, or anything of that nature ever being
Yes.
in the parade.
The San Francisco Empresses are always groundbreaking and always willing to push the envelope and get banned for everything.
Yeah.
She got away with it. Yes.
Yeah.
There
The first and the last.
There's a sidebar article that was written later that documents Ron Williams can tell the tale about the trainers, the handsome gentlemen who were training the elephant, and all the rigmarole that it took to get her on that elephant and what happened afterwards. So yeah, this is certainly a historic drag moment that we all treasure. As well as the appearance of Divine. There were several ads over the years in the B.A.R. in the 70s of Divine either performing live or performing in a show, a kind of comedy. There was a jail-themed one, of course, some with music, some without. But the Alcazar Theater was frequently the spot for Divine shows that came to town. And Divine also, ran around and stirred up the nightlife as well.
I saw that show a few times. It was amazing.
The Neon Woman?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
It was so amazing. I have the program somewhere in my house.
Okay. Wow.
I with a signed, Divine signed it and everything. We used to hang out at Cafe Flore and at the bathhouses and everything. I mean, she was always, really fun to chat with after the shows.
That's amazing. I would love to go back in time and see Divine live. Or a film, La Cage aux Folles. This is the arts and film section were pretty thorough, even going back to the early paper, and anything to do with drag or gays obviously was also included in the coverage. And why I included this, I love this ad for Kelly. Vote for Kelly for Grand Duchess, 7980. The artwork is astounding. I should have zoomed in. It's pretty amazing. There were a lot of graphics like this during the 70s and 80s that were hand-drawn.
If I can just go back to the Duchess. So San Francisco is really unique in that we have two full-fledged court systems here, the Imperial Council and then the Ducal Court. And that kind of spun off because the founder of the Ducal Court, Perry, Fred Perry, is that correct? Ran for Empress again and again and again, and then it made a rule that you can only run 3 times. So he said, screw you guys, I'm gonna go create my own rival court system, and created the Ducal system, and now it's thriving, and I believe they're just getting ready to celebrate their 50th anniversary.
All right.
As well. But yeah, because he ran so much, they made a rule, you can only run 3 times. If you don't make it, you're done. So it's an interesting history, but I greatly admire. I got my start in the Ducal system as a Queen of Hearts back in the day in 2013. But imagine, these two amazing organizations in the late 1960s, early 1970s, just all going out there, defining, finding out who they are, and just fundraising and building a social group for people to feel welcome and accepted. And I think it was just such a beautiful thing. And today, each organization raises hundreds and thousands of dollars for charity, continues to do that work. So it's incredible. And I give big props to the Ducal Council and the Imperial Council for kicking it off way back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I love that backstory that it just was like, well, I'll start my own. And then they came together and actually joined forces later on. That's brilliant. This is an ad for, let me see, the Frisco Follies, which preceded Priscilla, Queen of the Desert by several decades, but I think they used this as a reference. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, the Beaux-Arts Ball was also a big drag event for novices, amateurs, as well as professional entertainers. This looks like it was fun, but I just wanted to share that. The ubiquitous Sharon McKnight is, of course, featured as an entertainment elsewhere. Now, this is about the Polk Street sweep. You can see the top of the paper is yellowed from sitting out by a window, but below that, of course, is José Sarria as the Widow Norton, with a photo by the Rink, who was a frequent photographer and still prolific, even in those days. But I just wanted to get in a photo. Now, Sister Tilda, here's a feature on Sister Boom Boom, one of the founders, I believe, of the San Francisco organization of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, in and out of phase.
Yeah, she wasn't one of the founders. She was definitely one of the first ones, and most likely the first one to become famous, because when she ran for supervisor in the city. So we can
Right.
basically say that Sister Boom Boom was like the first Sister Roma.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a vintage poster of her flying through the air, Surrender Diane, where she's flying on a broomstick a la Ethelba.
Yeah, that was when she ran for office. And since then, we made a promise that no sister can run for an official title in the city.
Oh, really? Okay. I did not know that. Huh.
Yeah, we don't mix politics with the sisters, especially because we are a nonprofit organization.
Right.
So it will mess up with our status as nonprofit.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. Here's another lovely photo of José Sarria. He's did a tour. He did a speaking engagement. And here, speaking of Timmy Spence, below the fold, John Sugar writing about Timmy Spence's show. This is just, I just included this because this is a frequent thing at gay pride. It's usually a photo of drag queens and lesbians on motorcycles. There are certain tropes of pride that even the B.A.R. and all its innovation just generally falls into. Here, you know, the drag queens are fabulous. They attract the photographers. This is something that is consistent. But when I came to San Francisco here in 1992, for me, drag was of the Greg Taylor circuit. It was product. It was alternative. It was genderfuck. It was not specific to male or female. And here, proving that point is Miss Betty having an intimate moment with a gerbil, allegedly, in a column written by Justin Bond, pre-Vivian.
That was the first time Heklina ever appeared in San Francisco, was that night.
Oh my God!
It was definitely a gerbil.
Yeah, it was. That was the Miss Uranus pageant at the end up, and I entered that competition. And I was performing, and I needed a name, and I had just moved to San Francisco from Iceland, and I was like, so it's from the volcano Hekla in Iceland. It was,
Right.
it was a name that I took 5 seconds to think about, and then it just kind of stuck after that. And then Betty Pearl pulled that carrot out of her butt. She was trying to lure
Right.
gerbil into, and then she threw it into the audience, and it hit this woman in the forehead and got fecal matter on the woman. And a week
In
later,
her eye. In her eye.
it was in her eye. And then a week later at Clubstitute, we had the trial of Miss Betty Pearl because yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is the 90s. That pretty much wraps it up. Yeah, I came from New York with you know, the Pyramid and RuPaul and Delight and that era, and the transition into falling into the whole Popstitute, etc. crowd was really quite comfortable. I was very familiar with it. But it really, you and these guys and folks really started, do you think you started a new form of drag? Like here's Kitty Litter, who had an eccentricity of her own before she died.
Well, her name was actually Miss Kitty. Well, we all called her Miss Kitty. And we didn't really, I don't think anybody called her Kitty Litter, did they, Fudgie?
Oh, that's a no. That's
No,
not.
but that was her full name was Miss Kitty Litter Green.
Oh, right.
I remember she added green to it at one point. But yeah, we just called her Miss Kitty.
Because she was obsessed with the color green.
Yes, and actually, I wore a green dress at her memorial.
Oh.
And you know, in 1995, everybody that influenced me when I moved to San Francisco, they all died. You know, Diet Popstitute,
Right.
Miss Kitty, all those. Jerome.
Yeah, here's another remnant from the early 80s was Jerome. No, Jerome, I don't think identified as trans or drag or just Jerome.
It was just Jerome, yeah.
Yeah. Above the fold, of course, is Mark Eustace. So that the early 90s were full of people dying and being fabulous and then dying and being remembered as being fabulous. Also, I'm bumping forward to 1997, back to the Imperial Court, celebrating a quarter century.
Veranda Lanai, who I campaigned for, and she passed away shortly after she won the title.
Wow!
Right? Isn't that right, Mercedes and Khmera?
I'm not sure if about passing away right when she won, but yeah, I do know. So 25 would have been when Marlena would have won because she was Empress 25, but Veranda Lanai.
I can't read the caption. Sorry, I didn't. I should have zoomed in.
It was Kakatilia, became Empress in 96. And then I think Veronda Lanai was 97. Anyway, you guys know better than I do.
This is a fundraiser for the Coquettes film that was later become quite a hit and a cult favorite. David Weissman and Bill Weber's film documented the hippie drag of the Coquettes, their rise and fall. Of course, with Sylvester, John Waters, Rumi, and other folks. Other performance drag. I didn't get into all the performers who come to town in drag, but the Kinsey Six, of course, came from San Francisco, and now they perform around the world. Well, when they can, but I just wanted to give them a nod because they're fun and they're still kicking it. And now here's Fudgie in our Pride section for 2002 with Donna Sachet and the ubiquitous Transamerica building.
Yes, I remember that photo shoot.
I think it was Rick Gerhardt.
Yes, I think so. And it was just like a real quick photo shoot.
Yeah. I love the angles. I think it's very on. It's very of that era. Very .com. In 2004, this is Mark Martin did an interview with Juanita Moore. She has a very glam mod look in that photo, definitely. Below the fold, we have more coverage of the sisters. On the right, of course, is Ken Bunch, aka Sister Vicious Power Hungry Bitch.
That's actually our founder, Sister Vish.
Yes. Now, Ken Bunch, Sister Power Hungry Bitch, was an old friend of Mike Salinas, our late news editor. They knew each other from Iowa back before the sisters even started, and Ken Bunch and Mike were old friends way back. So there was a rumor, I'm going to address this now that we're on this page, is that there was some kind of rift between our late publisher Bob Ross and the sisters organization, which Mike Salinas was bent on disproving through even-handed coverage like this of their anniversaries, etc. But I think there was an argument that Bob had with one of the sisters, and he just holds a grudge. But it didn't affect our editorial coverage, and that's one thing that I learned working with Bob was that you could have a knockdown, drag out shout match with Bob and then go and write whatever you wanted your own way. He never said, don't write that. And that's one thing that I'll defend. But I think there was some kind of argument going back to the early 80s, I think with gay games or whatever, that led to some kind of discord where the sisters thought the paper wasn't going to cover them. And I've been trying to disprove that ever since. Anyway, moving on to the other controversy, Trannyshack. 2005, here's Heklina.
Yes, that's for the Miss Trannyshack pageant, which was we started it early on, and we started it out. Oh, somebody made a comment in the comment section. You guys can talk about that later. Anyway, the Miss Trannyshack pageant was started as a response to actually more traditional drag shows. Do you want to address this comment first?
Which one? There's so many I missed.
From Mark Klein, who Mark Klein says that my God. Mark Klein says Bob Ross did not like the sisters. So,
yeah, well, I wrote about when Bob was alive, and even after he died, I wrote about a lot of things he didn't like, but he never said you can't write about that. He would just grumble. But thank you, Mark. Mark knows a lot of history of the sisters as well. I have a can of Heklina cream corn from her campaign for Miss Uranus.
So yeah, I had cans of cream corn that I put my face on, and I bribed all the judges with that. And it became a very coveted item after that. So Greg Taylor, I think Greg Taylor had a can of cream corn, and Mark Klein.
Mark Klein is actually Sister Jaja, and she's been a sister since 1993.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Let me try to go back. Let's finish off the slideshow. I'm going to try to go back to, if you can see this. Can you see it, or
Can't see it anymore.
Okay, let me go back to try to click on the magic button.
Mark Klein did a fabulous show when I first moved to San Francisco. That's how I met Pippi Lovestocking. It was called Lavender Lounge.
Right.
And when I was dating Jason Messier from Enrique, we went to go tape it. And that's also how I met Darcy.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Darcy was doing Enrique at the time with Jason Messier?
Yeah. And yeah.
Let me add this to the stream, and I'm sorry for the feedback, but we'll go back to now. Was the Trannyshack contest pageant in DNA Lounge by then, or where was it? I can't read the text.
This was at the Regency Ballroom. So, like I was saying, when I first started doing drag in San Francisco, I didn't come from any kind of drag rules or anything. So this was almost a contest we started to kind of not make fun of, but to kind of have our own thing instead of like the well, it was actually a parody of Miss Universe and stuff like that.
Right.
But it started off at the Stud, and it became so huge, it just moved to progressively bigger venues until finally it was like a rock concert, and like, you know, with rock concert production, and it became this huge thing. Trannyshack. Wow, it's so funny for me to look at these things because I forget how huge Trannyshack was, like in the whole scheme of things, you know. But anyway, that pageant became so over. Like the last one we did was at the Gift Center, and it was like thousands of people.
Yeah,
I never did another one after that. It was
you just reached full stop. Yeah, just over. Well, this is a little feature we did together about your leaving the Stud version of it and moving on to the larger monthly DNA Lounge versions before, in between pageants. But yeah, it was Tuesday night. Everyone had an excuse to show up late on Wednesday, particularly B.A.R. staff, because it was next door. I loved the fact I would love to have Adriana Roberts, the famous mashup DJ and former production designer of the B.A.R., who had access, of course, to the production area, but would store the props because there was no room backstage. So there'd be like alien spaceships that were all banged up from the night before on Wednesdays.
Right.
It was hilarious. That was hilarious. Yeah, it was fun. This is in 2010, Sweet Lips, the original first drag columnist for the B.A.R., died at 87. Just pay homage. And now we're moving to the little mini mag version of the Bar Tab. In 2013, here's a little article about the Drag King competition, which that year was at Space 550. Fudgie.
Oh yes, 550 Barneveld, and that was also the first year that that we had a spread in the pink section with this photograph.
Oh, all right.
So like our family photo with all of our pets. Here's one of the guys that was in the photo right here on my lap.
On screen now, but you can bring the pet up later. Yeah, let me
keep him quiet. Trying to keep him quiet from barking.
That's fine.
Yeah, this was I don't remember what year that.
This is 2013.
Oh, 2013. And Space 550 was a very difficult club to work at.
Oh,
so
really?
I think we just did it that one time.
Oh, okay.
There, and then went back to the easier venues, and especially, of course, the Oasis, which is the best.
I love your little quote here about your creation of your persona. Fudgie was discovered quite accidentally by Versace in 1996 while fucking Donatella in a K-hole after hours in his Miami showroom. Frottage recalled for Bar Tab. Oh my God, the backstory. Moving on abruptly to the Sisters and the 2013 project Nunway, always a fabulous photo opportunity. And here's Stephen Underhill. When we had the luxury of a full-page photo spread back in the day, captures some very unusual costumes. These are usually environmentally recycled. Is that right, Sister Tilda?
The whole idea about Project Nunway is to use recycled materials and pair a designer with a sister. So they work together and they create something unique, and all goes to charity later. So all the proceeds go to charity.
Yeah. These are some beautiful trash bags. I think the center one is worth mentioning. Greg Angela Herrera's Sun God with the silver won the competition top honors, and yeah, that one, it was like it was floating. I mean, there was just like no feet, and it was amazing. But it's always amazing every year. It's pretty fascinating. We're going to jump back to our Barchive history column for a bit, where Michael Flanagan talks about the famous pre-Stonewall California Hall drag ball, where many people were arrested simply for being in drag because the cops used that as an excuse to accuse them of being prostitutes.
Now, what year was this? 65?
Yeah. This was not covered in the paper. Of course, the B.A.R. didn't start till 71, but the Examiner and the Chronicle were very vituperative, as Michael Flanagan shows with clippings, in describing the police moved in on a homosexual benefit ball sponsored by Protestant ministers and arrested 2 attorneys who protested. So actually the clergy became the biggest supporters of having charges dropped and forcing renewal and change. And I include this extra bit because Michael has some visualizations of the Black Cat in the 1940s. And in the right, of course, is José Sarria at the Black Cat in 1961. These were photos. I don't know whether they were published in any publication beforehand, but they're definitely historic, and we loved any excuse. And here's some more Heklina when you decided to rebrand. I think Heklina moved off.
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Yes. I remember it well.
Now, weren't there like New York productions that were stealing your name, stealing the name of the night?
There was a club in London actually. They'd flown me over to London several times to do it, and then they kind of had my blessing, and then I found out that they had copywritten Trannyshack in Europe. So I sued them, and I learned the lesson that it's just not worth suing anybody because you just throw money down the drain, and then a couple years later I dropped the name anyway. So I just spent a lot of money fighting with these people in London, and anyway, it was just really silly.
Yeah. And below this, now we're getting to Gappa's runway 26 with Khmera Rouge in traditional garb. And here's the jump where Mr. Gappa, Sir Whitney Queers.
Yes.
Very elegant night. And I just have to hone in on this photo you sent. That was so beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so this was my talent. So for Gappa Runway, all the contestants have 2 minutes to present a talent number. So I did a traditional classical ballet, Cambodian classical ballet number, and then remixed it with I'm Britney Bitch. It was, it was a moment, free Britney, of course, but it kind of was a callback and kind of like history lesson about why I chose the name Khmera Rouge. I modeled it after the Khmer Rouge, which were the terrorist group in the 1970s that caused a genocide in Cambodia, and is the reason why I'm here today is because my family were refugees because of all of that. They first were refugees in Thailand. They got sent to the Philippines before resettling in Washington State, where I was born. So when I was choosing a drag name, I purposely chose Khmera Rouge because I wanted to call back to that because people weren't talking about what happened just 30 years ago at that point.
Right.
And I was afraid it was going to be lost. So it was an opportunity to educate people. And I got a lot of flack for it in the beginning, but when I explained the reason why I chose it, people understood, it has a higher purpose. And my goal was if at least 1 or 2 people learned something new and were able to kind of educate themselves about what happened, it served its purpose. It taught people about that so it wouldn't be forgotten. It was never meant to glamorize genocide or anything, as I've been accused of doing. But it's I do hold my culture very close to my heart, and this is a traditional costume, and I was very fortunate to be able to share that with the API community at Gappa Runway 25.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant the way you turn it around, and it's creative as well as controversial but provocative.
Which is what drag should be. It's
right?
Political. Drag should make a statement. Drag should make people uncomfortable, and it should make you question things around you. So I think all of us have done a wonderful job of trying to create history and have a higher purpose to our drag. So
right.
So thank you.
No, thank you. That's very important. I was going to ask you, tell your story, and you did. Right, the right moment too. That's brilliant. No, another drag persona or trans persona with purpose. This is when Mahogany had an album, actually. It released an EP, had been on RuPaul's Drag Race, one of the first, if few, San Francisco drag performers to ever be on that show. I have to get a hold of RuPaul. And here's the jump. And in the jump is another Trannyshack's 15th star search with Sukasa in the middle.
Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Let's see. Ron V, the comic, interviewed you for that.
Oh, wow. I don't remember any of this. It's so crazy.
Yeah, Google yourself. Back to Project Nunway, another Project Nunway. This one is in 2014 with more amazing looks. Latin leather.
Latin leather killed that look. So sickening.
Now that look is from 2012, which I used the photo from because the newspapers. I think there are actually a bunch of B.A.Rs stuffed in that skirt as well, but it's just brilliant. I just love that stuff. David's talking about. I think it was that year, Nunway 666 Heretics of Fashion. Where was it held? I think at Somart's gallery, but I'm not sure. And again, there's some more repurposed ones from previous years. The side hoop skirt is my favorite as well. And there's some youngers who were getting in on it as well. They had some youthful. And here's a Stephen Underhill's photo album from that year's Project Nunway as well. Lots of bright colors there. Look at that octopus umbrella, was very creative. Now, Persia, you can take yourself off mute because in this feature about the closing of Esta Noche, Michael Flanagan wrote with lovely photos by George Lester, who was one of my favorite photographers. Here you are in the jump space with what is said as an Esta Noche staffer, but I thought maybe it was one of the co-owners. Do you remember?
That was the manager, Edgar. Right after the bar closed, he moved back to Guatemala.
Okay.
But yeah, this was my home. I know I had a lot of nicknames like Esta Nightmare and other things, but really this was the one space that really allowed me to sort of like be in unity with all my identities. It was the first time that I was not just the brown person at the gay space, or I was not just the gay person in the brown space.
Right.
And it was just such a magical place for people like myself and my friends, and till this day I still miss it, you know. And yeah, I worked there for 6 years straight every weekend.
Really?
And you know, it was such a great, you could catch a drag show every day for a very long time, up until like when gentrification really hit the mission. And because when I started there, I was performing on Wednesday nights, and then a girl left the Saturday 7 p.m. slot. Then I got that. Then I got the 11:30 slot, and then they needed other people. So then I was performing, I don't know, like 3, 4 times, 5 times a week.
Okay.
And then slowly, as people were being kicked out, artists and the clientele that usually would go there after work were no longer able to go to that space after work. Like they had to travel far because they had been pushed out. So yeah, this is really a really magical spot for not just me, a lot of people actually. And this club was actually amazing even before it closed. Like,
right.
You know, and not a lot of publications have really focused on that. Like, I feel like once it was closing, all of a sudden, oh my God, let's go. Which happens with a lot of spaces, but
yeah. One of the downsides of doing the Bar Tab Nightlife Focus section from 2010 was it started to become a nightlife obituary because one bar after another closed. We did a feature on the Lexington, did this feature on Esta Noche, and Esta Noche was the first gay bar I went to in San Francisco before I even lived here. Teddy Matthews, the late literary persona and of Modern Times bookstore, he got me stoned out in the alley, and then I watched a drag show and it overtipped a Go-Go Boy. That was in 1991 before I was even living here. So I have fond memories as well. But yeah, the Esta Noche was one of the many places that we've lost, and the least we could do was document it this way. And speaking of what's gone and renewed is Michael's feature on the old Oasis and featuring Heklina's newer show, Mother, which opened in somewhere in January in 2015. I think this was the New Year's Eve show. I don't know what the photo's from.
This is from the launch of Mother. This is the opening night of Mother. So there were two firsts, and with New Year's Eve, we had opened Oasis,
right?
Which was really a nail biter because on the afternoon of that opening, you know, there was a pile of sawdust in the middle of the dance floor, and we really just pushed all the dust and sawdust into a corner and put glitter over B.A.R, and we opened up for New Year's Eve, you know, and then I opened this this nightclub a couple weeks later, and it was just a crazy period for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's adorable Simon. And what's funny is the history is that it had a swimming pool. I don't think I included the jump. Did I? No, this is from Mother. It's not the historic piece, but these are some of the first performances at Oasis.
At Oasis. So the owners before us, it was a Latin nightclub called Club. It was called Club Caliente, and they'd kind of been forced out by the ABC. They were really harassed by the ABC, but they had filled in the area where the pool was very poorly. So we had to excavate it and refill it and cover it with concrete. We always meant to put a dance floor over the concrete, but we never got around to it. So if you go to Oasis, it's still just concrete. Nobody seems to complain about it. They're used to it at this point.
You just don't jump like you do when you're on speed at a club in the 90s, the way I used to do. Yeah. Anyway, so there's Putanesca, aka the talented photographer, Jose A. Guzman Colon. And I think up on the right is Sukasa, and that I think the Liza impersonator is
Phonique.
Yes. And that's David Glamamore in Rags. And of course, there's Darcy with two hunky backup dancers.
Yeah,
doing a one-legged outfit. And here's another gone place, Balançoire. Did any of you or all of you perform there? I see Khmera in one of the photos.
I performed there once, yeah.
I performed there quite a bit.
I think they were opening the year I was running for Empress, and we had our gala there. So yeah, it was a fun space. I remember always like queens dropping from the ceiling on their little hoop. I never did. I always wanted to. I never got the courage to do it, but it seemed fun.
Who is that famous queen who died, who's on YouTube? She dropped from the ceiling into a split.
Iman Dupree, I believe.
We can look that up on YouTube.
That is an incredible drop.
Yeah, that is.
Tamisha Armstrong daughter.
So there was a weekly brunch here. I know that happened too. A drag brunch before it became too crowded.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's just a little bit with Persia. You were performing in a show with Marga Gomez as the host, with the adorable Christian Kajigal and Barry Walters. I just wanted to include that glam shot of you.
Oh, I look so good.
You always look good, Persia.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that's when Marga Gomez used to have her Thursday night shows, Comedy Bodega, and she would bring all kinds of comics into this space, and it was really all kinds, like people who've been on HBO or people who were just starting. Me. She actually forced me to get on stage, and the reason why I talk so much when I'm on the mic is because of her. Because she really pushed me. She's like, "No, you're gonna do this. You're gonna do this," and I almost like died. But it was a really awesome experience until this day. Now she's one of my really good friends, but. I thank her for really pushing me, not just me, but a lot of like Latinx performers to really like step up their game. And she was just, again, I can't believe she's my really good friend now, but such an inspiration and an amazing, amazing woman.
She's been around forever and doing nightlife and comedy for decades. She knows where all the stage bodies are buried. Oh, sorry, bad segue. This is a Shooting Stars photo by Stephen Underhill of the Cookie Dough Memorial that was held. Celebration of life, lots of folks there. And There's the article in our Besties issue of 2015 about cookie dough that David Elijah Namaud wrote, and the huge floral memorial in the Castro for cookie dough as well. She posthumously won Best Drag Queen that year. It just made sense, by hundreds of votes, I should add. And turning it around 180, the somewhat detestable, no, we love her dearly. I love her from New York, Lady Bunny. Pretty much the one of the penultimate folks who would come to town to do a show and call me right up on my phone. Somehow she got my phone number directly and said, "Jim, we're doing an interview." So I did. Interesting story about Lady Bunny. When I was working at Outweek magazine, she just came into the office, which is where Mike Signorelli, Gabriel Rotella, Sarah Pettit, Dale Pett, all these people who went on to other accomplishments. She just came in with a bag of wigs for wig stock, and we all got free wigs. That was how she buttered us up for coverage. Let me do that. And here you guys are, you and Darcy winning Best of the Bay. Oasis won, I think, 4 or 5 awards. Here's a later Donna Sachet column with Khmera Rouge and Emperor Kevin Lyle at the investiture celebrations at Oasis. Again, always looking great. With the Gareth Gooch photo, how can you go wrong? This is a little story that Michael Flanagan did about the Lilly Street Fair. I don't know if any of you remember or met Miss.
I remember that.
Miss Lilly Street.
Just the street fair that used to happen over there years and years ago.
Yeah, allegedly before the sisters did their Easter celebrations, there was Miss Lilly Street, who I don't think was an empress, but she was a local drag persona. She lived on Lilly Street, and right by the Zen Center, she started throwing these little parties. And then a DJ, you can see in the lower left in black and white, they had Easter bonnet contests.
Yeah, Lilly was Empress 23.
Oh, thank you.
1988. So I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's the same person, Lilly Street, but we have a Lilly Street.
Yes, it is. The photos in the center are dated 1989, so this is probably an 85 in the lower left. But no, it definitely is the same person, because I've been fascinated with, because I live in Hayes Valley, so I've always been fascinated with it. So look that up. That article will be on issue.com and also on ebar.com.
And I believe Lilly Street, her emperor, bought a bar and named it after Lilly, and which is now Martuni's.
Right.
You always got to find a good emperor that will buy you a bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I believe that's true. Mercedes, do you remember that story? Okay. We'll fact check, but I believe her emperor bought what is now Martuni's and created the bar, named it Lily's Bar, Lilly Street Bar. And then
Skip at Martuni's confirmed that when we were discussing that. I think when we had a party there, we hosted a party there. Speaking of party, there's Khmera Rouge on a truck. On
a fire truck. So I believe this is a still, or it's a shot. So during my year, we were fortunate enough to run for during the 50th year, and they've made a documentary called 50 Years of Fabulous, which is now streaming through Frameline distribution and on Amazon Prime and iTunes. So please go and stream and watch it. It's a beautiful film made by Jethro Patalungkug and Absolute Empress 36, David Lastman or Chablis, and it talks about the 50 years of history of the organization, and kind of follows from Jose to Marlena, who was 25, to the candidates who were running for 50, which were Dina Cartier and myself, and it was just such an amazing experience. And this fire truck came about. It was a surprise from one of my friends who had a connection with the fire department. And it was a decommissioned fire truck that they use for parades and community events. And it just rolled up on voting day. And I was like, oh, let's just climb on and just like ride around the city. So, my theme was paint the town rouge, and we sure turned the Castro red that day.
It's amazing that an accessory, it's like, oh, the truck matches my dress. Okay, I'll get on.
Fabulous.
I love that. I love that whole thing. Now, this is a double drag issue. I was very thrilled to have Jim Gladstone talk about Magnus Hastings' wide drag book, as well as coverage of Mr. David's Glam Fest at the Young Museum, which we mentioned before. There's the ubiquitous Barbara Lee on stage in the lower below the fold, and above the fold is Dulce de Leche in a lovely Hitchcockian still pose. There's more photos in that issue you can look up, but basically paid Kabore a couple $100, more than that, just for a few of the hundreds of amazing photos he took of all the folks who did the runway at the DeYoung, and hosted by Juanita Moore, of course. But we can look and see Berntez Purnell, the author, Jacques Whitfield, Kenji Westover, Suppository Spelling. I'm just rattling off names here of all the fabulous people, but here's two of Mercedes Munro. Boom.
Mm-hmm. It was an amazing night. Like, in addition to Mr. David being just like a phenomenal couturier, like Juanita has more clothes than anyone I have ever met. Like this warehouse upon warehouse upon warehouse of garments that Mr. David has created, each of them so unique and just beautiful. And then being able to be in the DeYoung with like everyone like just in the scene and everyone wanting to be a part of that like moment to celebrate and honor Mr. David's fashion as well as Juanita Moore was just incredible. Like it was just insane. Like everyone that walked the runway, it was great.
It was gasp. It was just gasp worthy. I'm so glad I got to see it in person. I didn't take a single photo because I knew between Kabore and Gareth Gooch and like 5 others, someone else was going to document it. I wanted to just breathe it in and experience it. And it was stunning. It was just, I mean, I don't wear clothes like this. I don't do that. But to see, like in the lower right, if you can see how all of you worked the outfits was what was amazing too. Anyway,
it was spectacular. And Mr. David had to alter the outfits so that they would fit different sizes as well.
Right. Yeah. Not just throw it on pret-a-porter. Anyway, more fabulousness with Mercedes here as a drag pageant winner in our Pride issue of 2016.
Yeah. So this was great. And when I first moved to San Francisco, like it might just be my perception, but like I didn't see a lot of like pageant drag. I hear there were Imperials, and like I was one of those people that were late to work on Trannyshack and stuff like that, but I never saw like traditional like pageant drag, what they called that. And it was great, like just being able to go out and being embraced by the community. Cookie Dough was the very first person to actually book me. Outside of me winning Miss Gay San Francisco in 2007, she booked me when she had her show at Harvey's, and like there, everything else took off. But I've had like a lot of really, really great love and luck in the realms of like being a personality in San Francisco. I've always said that I'm not a pageant queen. I'm a queen that wins pageants. And that's completely different. Completely different.
Yes.
But being elected the 52nd Empress of San Francisco was a dream come true. Like I'd actually ran right after my reign of being Miss Gay San Francisco, and I didn't win, and that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Empress Cher won that year. I lost by 6 votes, but still, like, but still, I absolutely was not ready for that. Like, I went on and won Miss California, West Coast Showgirl, Miss Gay United States, and like a few other things. But like, it was always about like coming back and giving back to a community that has given so much to me. And 10 years to the day of me running for Empress and losing, I ran in 2017, and I was elected Empress. And then I was also fortunate enough to be like nominated to be like one of the Grand Marshals, and then winning a Heritage of Pride Award at Pride. And that just meant the world to me as well. And so San Francisco's been great. I moved here, like I wasn't thinking about drag, wasn't doing drag. I was very married at the time, like living my butch softball fantasy because I coached teams in the SFGSL. And yeah, like after me and my then ex split, I was like, well, let's look up and see what the drag scene is like here. And like, I was just hooked. And so Yeah, I've been super fortunate enough to be embraced by the city that I love so much, and also raise money for the city that I love so much. And so
that is amazing. That's terrific. Yeah, it's unexpected, to become a royal, whereas others, maybe you have the goals for it. I'd like to ask, let me cut out the slideshow for a bit because there's lots more pictures. What do you all think the RuPaul's Drag Race phenomenon has done to local drag? Has it upstaged it? Has it fueled it, made it more popular?
I think it's made it more accessible.
Yeah, it's made it more accessible, but at the end of the day, every person that has been on Drag Race started out as a local girl. And like, yes, they are in front of us. Yes, they are glamorized. People that are on TV oftentimes are, but that's just the nature of the beast in that regard. But there's still like a substantial amount of people, in my opinion, that still are of the vein support your local queens, because like the Drag Race people, they make great money, but like being friends with a whole bunch of them, like super close, and I'm not going to name drop, but being super close with a few of them, like they're like, after they get these big paydays, like a substantial portion then goes to their managers, their booking people, XYZ. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you could have just come and did my gig and made the same amount of money. But yeah, I mean, they were fortunate enough to get on and have that exposure, and they get booked, but still, like, they too were local queens one day, and I'm always going to support my local girls.
Right. Okay. Khmera, did you want to say something?
I completely agree 100%. I think, Drag Race, what it's done is it's made it more mainstream, and, you can't turn around without seeing a drag show or drag brunch, drag anything. And I remember, like, even back in 10 years ago, it was still relatively rare to have a drag brunch in San Francisco.
It was Harry Denton's, Denton's Starlight Room.
That was the only game in town. And then, it just made it more accessible, and I think it created an outlet, and it showed people you can express yourself. And I think as we gripe, a lot of the older queens, myself included, think like, oh, there's just so many, it's so oversaturated, but I think that's a beautiful thing. I'd rather have a million queens out there and expressing their true creativity and just being out there and just learning, to express themselves. And I think that's a credit to RuPaul and Drag Race, and creating a platform where people can view it regularly with the 10 different spin-offs around the world. I saw this meme once about like the Drag Race taking on the MCU Marvel universe, like, with all the different spin-off shows.
Oh, yeah,
it's incredible, and I think it's great that people are finding drag as a creative outlet.
Yeah. Okay.
I find it really interesting because when I go into schools, all in face, like I was just at Mission High to do this 90-minute presentation on drag history, and I walk in and they don't even bat a lash. Like, it's just like so common. And when the drag queen story hours that I do the same thing, the kids like, oh, drag queen, and so it's kind of beautiful. And then that's where when certain people are only exposed to the TV show, and then they're exposed to someone that is not on the TV show, they're like, oh. And then that's when there's that conversation. And then there's this space that is created among people who are in the drag world and those who are not. And then that dialogue really creates a safe space for sort of everyone. So in a way, I really do. I mean, I get the bad things about it because then I don't get booked. But then also, like, I see the beauty of it. And yeah.
I think that it's made more attendance at any show where a Rouge girl is booked. Like when Peaches started doing shows and incorporated Alaska Thunderfuck or the different, Ben de la Creme or whoever, he's had so many people. I would be sitting in the audience, and then when that person would be announced, the entire crowd would go insane, and I'd be sitting there like, who is this person? Because I hadn't watched the latest episode or whatever. But I mean, whatever makes us all get more work is great.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Heklina. Do you want to?
Oh, I was just going to say, I feel the exact opposite of everybody else. I think it's really dumbed down the art of drag, and it's dumbed down the average drag fan. They don't care about they don't care about the art of drag anymore. Actually, what I found is all they really care about is the meet and greet and the photo with with whatever RuPaul girl it is, and you know, they'll go. So when you're on RuPaul's Drag Race, oftentimes you're not a performer, but they're put on this treadmill of performing at all these nightclubs, and a lot of times they have nothing to offer. Yeah. So I've had some of the worst shows that I ever had at Mother were shows by these people that I booked, and dealing with managers and, you know, just all that stuff. I don't think drag should be safe. I don't think it should be palatable to the masses. I think it should be dangerous and subversive. And now all that you have is death drops and brunch and bingo, you know, especially where I live in Palm Springs, you know what I mean? So I miss the average drag fan used to actually search for shows by Jackie Beat or Lady Bunny. But now if they don't see a RuPaul girl on that poster, they don't go. And sometimes they go and the Emperor has no clothes. Like I'll just say it. I booked Alyssa Edwards, and that was the worst show that we ever had at Mother, and people were complaining about it. And I said, well, why don't you come next week when it's a good show and all these local queens are performing? And you know, and they don't. So they're only conditioned now to go to the shows with these girls from the show. So I think it's hurt local drag. And it's made drag itself much more tame and boring.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead.
Really quickly.
Go ahead, Mercedes.
To Heklina's point, like, I can honestly say that I enjoy so much more watching the Boulet Brothers Dragula now than I do watching Drag Race. Like, I know a lot of people, but like to Heklina's point, like, I love the artistic elements of Dragula, how it isn't safe. Like, I can appreciate it all, but like Drag Race, like, there is so many iterations of it. Like, I can respect that a person gets on there, like the fame that comes with that, so on and so forth. But me personally, I much prefer like watching Dragula than I do Drag Race.
Yeah, and also, you know, like, it's you are in a real fix as a promoter. Like as a promoter of a nightclub like Mother, I had to book these girls, and I was I was told actually right away who was top three. I knew who was top three before the season even started. Yeah, and it's kind of like a trap, because you only make money. You only make money on these nights when the Rouge girls are there. You make a lot of money, but sometimes they would cancel at the last minute. One time Miss Vanjie canceled the day before she was supposed to appear, and you can't recover from that. You know, it totally fucks you. So I don't like being dependent. Like, Trannyshack was great because it was on a Tuesday night. You had to really, really want to go there. You had to really be a fan
for 2 hours like this.
You had to really be a fan of drag and the art that was being shown at Trannyshack, and now, you know, it's like you can't just have a night like that that's avant-garde, because nobody will go to it unless you put not Sharon Needles anymore. She's canceled, but you know, somebody else, you know, whoever it is, you know. You have to put, like, if I'm doing a goth night, I had to have Alaska Thunderfuck, or nobody would go, because the average drag fan, it's just dumbed them down. They don't. The only references they have, they only know Joan Crawford because somebody did her on Snatch Game.
Snatch Game, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
So it's a parenthesis of a parenthesis.
Exactly.
It's not even closer to it. What I found from from the early days of the East Village that I experienced with Wigstock, and then early Trannyshack, and later is, as a writer, I always loved the acts that could tell a story in 4 minutes. A famous choreographer, Agnes DeMille, said, if you're going to tell a story through dance, if you can't do it in 4 or 5 minutes, you can't do it. And that's where I found those transgressive, plot-oriented, you know, the character persona turns into something like Set to Bjork, like one of your numbers where you did some kind of weird space operation. It takes thought to conceptualize it as well as to believe the illusion that's put up there with a sheet of plastic or some fake blood or other fluids. And I just find those to be much more fascinating. And I think the bald one who had the rose petals fly out of her head, she does a bit of that Trannyshack inspired. Which one is that?
That's Sasha Velour. And actually, the ones that were performers before they went on the show, obviously, are they're the most successful now as far as when you have them. Like Jinx Monsoon is amazing. Ben de la Creme, Alaska, anybody who was performing before they were put on the show. But then you have Kim Chi, whose only art is she knows how to put on makeup. Mm-hmm. She's great at makeup, but you can't put her on stage. You know what I mean? And I'll just say one more thing is that drag now, I have all these people who go online and they look at makeup tutorials and they know how to paint that stripe down their nose and contour and stuff, but they don't know what to do on stage. And some of the greatest performances I've ever seen on stage, they look like shit, but they were able to deliver on stage, and that's what really mattered. I don't know. Well,
I mean, that's where I love to decide on styles, you know, between that style and like when I went to, you know, out of town back in the Midwest, and the queens just start begging for dollars before they even do anything. It's like they don't have an act. They basically stand there, lip sync, and take dollars. And if you're going to do that, that's fine. That's one way of doing your thing. But I just prefer the ones where something happens. You know,
well, but that's the beauty of drag. Drag is everything. So if you want to just stand there and collect dollars, then you go do that. Because this is what I tell my students: create a character and bring it to life, or don't bring it to life. It is your choice what you do with that persona. If you want to jump around and say, "I just want to be white," then you go do that, like I did. Or if you just want to stand there and look pretty, I can do that too.
But if you want to stand there and look pretty on stage, it's not very compelling to look at.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you bring to life your character, and if that's your character and people eat it up, then that's when like drag cannot be defined because it can't be contained, and so therefore drag is everything.
All right,
that I agree with. Somebody in a business suit going to work, that's business. That's drag. That's all drag.
Well, yeah, to paraphrase RuPaul, one of my favorites actually was, I think Suppository Spelling did a number where for, I think, 3/4 of the number, it was a Halloween theme. She was in a coffin and didn't barely move. And it was transfixed. We were transfixed because we wanted to know what was going to happen. And of course, what was going to happen did happen. She got out and bit somebody or whatever. But she had the persona, and still does, I think, to just lay there and with her eyes captivate us through the minimalist, you know, Nosferatu type, whatever style, which I found amazing. So if we have a few minutes left, I want to race through Drag Race if I can. Some of the other images that I think are very amusing and are really have you guys visualized quite well. Persia, here you are in a very serious event, speaking of performance, mourning the Orlando shooting victims in 2016. This was our Pride issue. This is the news section. Very passionate moment caught. And here's the a latter moment of Latter Day Stud before it did its close. I like that because here we go. On the right, you'll see Mercedes with some other folks, and on the left, of course, are the collective that tried to save the stud. And more Oasis and Darcy below the fold here with my interview with Fred Schneider. And here's some of the queens that we pay to see. Here's Jackie B, Alaska Thunderfuck, and Courtney Act, people who actually bring something to the stage. Pacha Munro, did you want to say Mercedes about this Drag Queens on Ice performer? Am I
yes. Pachi has been skating. She is actually a medalist in the Gay Games. But what you guys probably don't know, or maybe you are, is that like our very own Empress Khmera Rouge, like I think this was your second year doing it, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and so Khmera could tell you more about this than I can. But yeah, that's Paju. She's a fantastic person, performer, and skater.
Yeah. One of the things I love about San Francisco is that, you know, you have all these opportunities for all these crazy events. You have like Mother, you have Trannyshack, you have, you know, Drag Queens on Ice in Union Square. Where else can you go and just like during the holidays and go see drag queens just skating around. This was my second year actually skating on ice. I've attended the event for quite a few years, but I believe the year I did it, it was the 10th anniversary, then skipped during COVID, and then it was the 11th or 12th iteration of Drag Queens on Ice this past December. And it's everything. Like, it's all different types of drag, but also very much different skating levels. You have like queens who used to just walk on the ice in their shoes, or queens who skated around, holding onto the wall and falling, or just queens like Paju, who's a phenomenal skater, just go around doing her amazing spins and jumps. But it's one of those unique San Francisco events that I'm so proud of. Like, I'm so happy that I started drag here in San Francisco in 2012, and ever since then, having all these opportunities to perform at some amazing places and participate in some amazing events is just incredible. And this is just an example of one of those.
It is pretty fabulous combo.
I have a question. Do you have any of Mr. and Miss Latino Safe? It's a pageant that's been happening for the past, I don't know, since the mid-'80s through the Instituto Familiar de la Raza, and which I've been co-hosting with Violeta every year, well, by before the pandemic. And it's an awesome pageant that happens every year. Costumes are insane. I've never seen costumes so elaborate, so incredible. And it's a pageant, but it's also like a resource for Latinos and queer Latinos, Latinas, Latines. And it's been happening for 25 years. So I was wondering if there was something in there about that, because I
think there was a photo album at one year like this one that Stephen Underhill did. I think he attended, but I don't remember getting press releases for that event. That's a problem too. I think a lot of not a lot, but some folks think, oh well, the B.A.R. won't cover it, so I won't send any information. And so if I don't hear about it, it's not going to get in. But if I do, it will. That's pretty much the way that works. But I do think there was a photo album like this because it was at a South of Market venue. Anyway, no, it's hard. It's hard to get everything in, especially now where things are online or they're canceled. But when things revive, we definitely want to get as much coverage of the diversity of events like that as possible, specifically the ones that have traditions. And here's the drag queen contest, Fudgie, at 22nd anniversary.
The drag king. Yeah, this is the one we did in September. So we had a Folsom kind of theme going.
All right.
And then we had Landon Sider as a special guest before he won Dragula. Oh. And what a kind of funny backstory is that maybe even like 10 or 12 years ago, he emailed me to compete in the contest. And at the time he does still live in Southern California, I think Long Beach. So I was like, well, this is a contest for Northern California, Bay Area, but you can appear as a special guest if you like, but it didn't happen at the time. But that's Max Manchester in the middle, who had won the year before. And then over with the shades is Mad Dog 2020.
I love how you guys just completely, you take masculinity and you own it, and it's hilarious and sexy at the same time. It's very, very fascinating. I love it.
Just like masculinity is.
Masculinity is drag, and once that gets exposed, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But I dig it. Anyway, this is my favorite photo of Darcy. Every New Year's Eve, I try to have an excuse to publish it because it just says joy, exuberance, and oh my God, we opened this place and we're not broke. And below that is another stud event with Vivienne Forevermore and Honey Mahogany, and the teasing of our 1 year where we had the lovely Juanita Moore as a columnist. Here you guys are winning another bestie, and I do anything I can to get another picture of Simon in the paper, as I did on the right there. And Easter, oh my God, the sisters, Easter. This was 2018. Lots of hunky Jesuses, however the plural of Jesus is, and bunnies and hot Marys and Sister Roma. And here's Heklina and Peaches when they could do a show, and you did do a show. You did Mommy Queer instead Oasis. Let me just plow through this. Another historical piece with Charles Pierce, about Charles Pierce for our Barchive column. Now he was quite a prolific performer. He was performing a lot. If you look at the old B.A.Rs on archive.org, you can see he was pretty much a regular performer. Now, this is one of my favorite pictures of Mercedes at the midnight, Monroe's at midnight, a photo by Gooch. And I liked it so much, I got to show you the whole photo. that is working some leg. I'm sorry, that is working it. And here's another Kings show. This is 2019. I was so happy that I was so clever to write that headline, Kings in the North, because it was the last season of Game of Thrones, I think. I'm not sure. Who cares? Anyway, also got to interview Carol Cook, who someone should do a drag version of her. She's a self-admitted straight drag queen. I think she joked about herself at one of these REAF benefits. There's your lovely doggy. There's the lovely dog. Yes. And now this is fascinating. I don't know if you read this, but this is the 2019 Pride issue. Below the fold, Michael Flanagan wrote about some silk screens of Doris Fish that were found in a dumpster and reproduced and turned into art. So we had an excuse to talk about Doris Fish and the star of Vegas in Space, dearly missed. But I thought that was fascinating, that whole story. So Michael covered that quite well. And speaking of professional RuPaul, famous sellout people, Ben de la Creme and Jinx Monsoon, who I don't even need to do features and advances on them because every year they come to town, their shows sell out. There's really no need to do an article. But this year we did, and it sold out, of course. And this is when Sister Tilda, the celebrations had to go online, so we used a photo from a year earlier.
Yes.
There's a Juanita Moore party. And here's Joan Jett Black, also Terrence, as we know Terrence, the local, who ran for president and attended the crashed the Democratic National Convention. This is a historic drag persona. Adore Terrence. And this goes back, this is a bit self-referencing. Jim Piota did a book review of Linda Simpson's Drag Explosion book. Y'all should do a book. You have enough photos. This is from my Wigstock East Village days where Linda, etc., the Pyramid, Boy Bar. Here's some more coverage of the 2021 Drag King contest, the 25th anniversary.
Oh yeah, that was our sci-fi theme. And Jane Weedland of the Go-Go's was our special guest.
Now she lives around here. She shows up at lots of events.
She did, but she's in Hawaii, living in Hawaii right now.
Okay. And here's Bianca Del Rio and Varla Jean Merman, two redheads on one page. I don't know why I did it. I just decided to. And here's a historic piece, another Barchive article about the old bars and referencing Sweet Lips and Lorelei and our original editors. So that is my collection of lovely photos. Let me hurry up and try to remove this. Thank you. I hope I get an A in multimedia. Mother Chucka, Mother Chucka wore flip-flops on the ice. That's right. Mark is encyclopedic in his drag knowledge.
Mother Chucka is my neighbor now in Palm Springs.
Everyone's living there now.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to come out there and do a reading.
Send her my love. Tell her I said hi.
I will do.
So what are you guys hoping for now that we dragged ourselves through that? I don't mind going overtime, but what do you hope to do with drag or to encourage others as we journey through this pandemic in its multifarious, nefarious forms?
I look forward. I mean, like I was so over drag when I left Oasis, and when I quit Mother, I was like sick of it. And then all it takes is a pandemic and not being able to do that stuff that makes you realize how much. I mean, I really do love it. I love the art form. I think I was just burned out being stuck in doing a weekly show again. It just burned me out, you know.
Yeah.
And also running a nightclub in San Francisco. So, but I enjoy the few times I've been able to perform live. So I can't wait to do that again.
Persia, do you get, when I taught kids in dance, in my dance field, I got so much energy back from the kids. Are you getting that despite all the problems and hassles?
You know, I was just talking to my drag child, Tyler Holmes, who also works with me. And I was like, you know, the only humans that are keeping me sane are the kids, because the adults are driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense. We're going through still a pandemic, but, you know, the energy, I really feed from that, and I think that's why I stay so young. But really, it really is, it inspires me. It keeps me inspired to keep going and do, because I haven't, my drag career or whatever it is hasn't been like I don't know. It's taken different routes, and so. But being at the school really inspires me to keep going with whatever I'm doing at the moment. And at the moment now is doing those presentations and talking about the rich drag history that San Francisco has. So it's really, and the twist is that I get to talk about all of y'all, and I'm like, yeah, I know them. I know them. And so it's really awesome to talk about that with the kids, and the kids are like, yeah. My favorite thing, all right, I can go forever. My favorite was last month when I did
that's a great froze shot.
I know. At Mission High, I was showing them queer videos of like Divine and RuPaul at like 9:30 in the morning. I was like, this is my life. This is my life. 10th graders are looking at me like, what the hell is going on? And they're watching queer things, and I'm telling them about queer things, not about just famous people, famous drag performers, but local people. And so that's where I sort of like try to like bridge the RuPaulness of the drag world and the undergroundness of drag world. And I feel like I try to create a bridge so that the kids know that that's not all drag. There's scary drag. There's all kinds of drag, because drag is everything. So anyway, inspired by the children.
That sounds like a full cafeteria. Yeah, you got a lot to serve. Sister Tilda, do you have are the sisters dealing with the pandemic? Do you have future projects in live or online that you want to share?
Yeah, we were super excited to restart having things in person, because most of our work is actually being in service, direct service with the community. So it is different when we can go actually be there with them, like live, without being online. So but then Omicron started, and then we got like, what we're gonna do?
Yeah.
But we are super looking forward to be on the streets again and be able to talk to people in a more direct way. If not, we'll just do stuff online like we've been doing in the past 2 years. But we're really, really, really looking forward to be able to have a fun Hunky Jesus and a fun Pink Saturday and everything else.
And another runway, Project
another runway, and be just be there with everybody.
But so Khmera and Mercedes, are you stepping out in the clubs? Are you guys going? Or Mercedes, are you back at Midnight Sun?
Yes, and I mean, one thing that I'm hoping for in 2022 is our first nomination and win for Munro's at Midnight Sun and myself from the B.A.R.
Okay.
No,
April,
but yeah,
second week of April, the besties. So we'll be starting the nominations in a few weeks. Yes.
But yeah, we for Munro's at Midnight Sun, when while things were getting like a bit dicey, we decided to like cut our shows for the month of January just to see like how things go like in February and whatnot. Yeah. But I do have every last Saturday of the month my BIPOC party, Us, at B.A.R, where we celebrate BIPOC excellence in the community. We have that going on the 29th, and we are highlighting Santana, or the one and only Rexy in Paju. But it's a super great event. I just want to make sure that everyone comes in like vaxxed, waxed, and ready to play nice.
Yes, waxed, and relaxed, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah.
Khmera, are you off, not public, or?
I'm like semi-retired from drag, but once in a while I will pop up here and there. But we are gearing up for our 57th election cycle for the Emperor and Empress of San Francisco. So campaigns are just gearing up, and we are getting ready to go out and elect our next emperor and empress. So we have two or three fabulous candidates. We'll find out. Review board is this Saturday, and then coronation is the last Saturday of February, which I believe is the 26th.
And voting day is the 19th.
Yeah, so voting day will be February 19th, and coronation will be the 26th, with a step down of our reigning emperor and empress, Juanita Moore and Mr. David Glamour Moore. But yeah, we have some potential applicants right now. We'll find out this Saturday if they are candidates. We have Era Amaya, and then
Yes, who's runner-up last year.
Yes, so Era ran last year. She ran a fabulous campaign against Juanita. They both did phenomenally. And I think, she's stepping up again, and she's gonna, usher us into a new era.
And she's a nurse, right?
Both applicants, I believe. So we have 2 applicants this year that are both healthcare workers. So big props to them for, the year and a half that they've been through, and then now wanting to step up and continue to support their community. I applaud them and all healthcare workers. Especially these 2, Era and Brent, are incredible healthcare workers, and they do a lot for our community already, and they're going to step up and do more amazing things. So we are looking forward to see what happens on Saturday, and if they get approved to run as candidates, we'll see what happens in the 57th year of the Imperial Council.
Yeah, and I really, really hope that I sit on the board for the Imperial Court, and so I'll go through the review process with them. But as to echo what Khmera said, is that they are both more than qualified. It's great that Brent, he will be the 4th Munro that will be a monarch in the Imperial Court if he is confirmed and actually wins the election. And so that's a great little legacy for my family. But both of them are absolutely phenomenal people. And once they potentially get confirmed, I would encourage everyone to go out and support and vote on February 19th.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that. And anyone else have something they want to promote or mention?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We have the Men of Club Casanova virtual event will be coming up in April, and that'll be with Moby Dick and all the old crew from Club Casanova, like Willie Ryder, who some of you may know, and then I'm just hoping that as the spring and summer comes up, that we can just feel safe about being out and celebrating our community again together, because we missed. It's just been a while for the drag king movement is getting bigger and bigger all the time, and people are getting much more creative with their makeup, and it's exciting, but to not be able to be in the same space together is challenging.
Yeah, but you can do a show with Murray Hill over in New York or whatever. So there's that. Oops, what did I do? Oh, remove. There we are. Okay. Well, thank you all for being part of this. We've gone over time, and I love that idea. That's great. We don't have to follow any strictures, but I think we've been very entertained by your stories, and I'm so proud to be a part of the drag coverage through the B.A.R, and we look forward to covering more in the future. Again, you can send your PR to events@ebar.com. I will be sure to get them in the paper, whatever size it may be. If not in print, then online. But thank you all for participating. Y'all can look for this at the end. It'll be archived on our YouTube channel, B.A.R Reporter SF. And thanks again, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Really good to see you, Heklina, Persia, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye,
Happy New Year.
Bye, everybody.